lot of money has been transferred from the individuals who committed this fraud, including those who donated to the governor donated to Representative Omar, donated to A.G. Ellison. And that money has gone overseas. And we are tracking that both to the Middle East and to Somalia to see what the uses of that have been.
But I want to pick up on where the Treasury Secretary just left off. He alleged that people who were tied to you or your campaign were involved in this broad, brazen scheme to rip off the Minnesota state welfare system. Do you want to respond to that? Do you know what he is referring to?
I really don't, and I don't think the Secretary himself understands what he's referring to.
This bipartisan legislation builds on my bill, the Meals Act, to ensure children continue to receive school meals this summer.
Back in February 2025, Omar was called out on social media for allegedly being worth tens of millions of dollars. And her response was to mock those claims and call her critics racist and bigots. And it was absolutely ridiculous to claim that she was a millionaire. According to investigation by the Washington Free Beacon, Omar and her husband, Tim Minette, are now worth upwards of as much as $30 million. Omar was recently found to be connected to one of the largest pandemic fraud cases in American history. Over 70 people have thus far been arrested for stealing upwards of $250 million that was supposed to feed hungry children during COVID, but instead lined the pockets of fraudsters. The scheme was run through an organization called Feeding Our Future, and at the center of it was a Minneapolis restaurant named Safari, and the restaurant basically served as a front for this money laundering operation.
Hannibal here. Ilhan Omar went on Face the Nation and tried to run the smoothest PR spin I've seen since someone tried to tell me that the McDonald's ice cream machine just broke this morning. We're talking about a potential billion-dollar fraud scheme. People in her own community getting charged left and right. People that actually once worked on her campaign getting charged left and right. And somehow she says that the real problem is the FBI.
There was a linkage in that the money that they had stolen going to terrorism, then that is a failure of the FBI.
Yeah, okay. Today we're going to be talking about this interview and breaking down some of the bad faith arguments and just the fact that she totally failed at trying to distract and deflect from the colossal failure that is happening in Minnesota. Let's get into it. So Ilhan Omar gets asked the simplest question on earth. Hey, a bunch of people connected to you and your community are involved in this massive fraud scheme. What's up with that?
But I want to pick up on where the Treasury Secretary just left off. He alleged that people who were tied to you or your campaign were involved in this broad, brazen scheme to rip off the Minnesota state welfare system. Do you want to respond to that? Do you know what he is referring to?
I really don't, and I don't think the Secretary himself understands what he's referring to.
So the answer was basically, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're referring to. Come on. It's like watching your child staring at you with crumbs all over their face and they're saying, I didn't eat the cookies. You know exactly what this person's referring to. But guess what? Because one of those men that was charged literally worked in her political circle, took pictures with her, attended events, and pled guilty to stealing millions of dollars.
I think she knows much more about all of this than she's let on the whole time. As you allude to, she has plenty of associates, close friends, allies who were enriching themselves off of $250 million defrauded from one program alone, maybe $1 billion in the state. That's what the compassion adds up to. But the fact is that a lot of people were making a ton of money off of this, and she just wants to lay it off on someone else. But ma'am, you're in charge. You're in charge of the district.
But then she goes on Face the Nation to pretend that she's confused. Like, oh, gee golly, I don't know. Never heard of this situation. I mean, this isn't confusion. This is some PR damage control with a fake smile. And it's just not getting the job done if that's what she's trying to do. So instead of addressing the fraud, she tries to flip the script. If there were any terrorism ties, the FBI would have already charged it. So if it's true, then the FBI failed.
Because House Republicans and the Treasury Secretary just now talked about a link to terrorism, a possible link. He said they're just now beginning to look into it. How confident are you that that's a false claim?
I'm pretty confident at the moment because there are people who have been prosecuted and who have been sentenced. If there was a linkage in that the money that they had stolen going to terrorism, then that is a failure of the FBI and our court system in not figuring that out and basically charging them with these charges.
Hold up. So your argument is if something bad happened, blame the FBI, not the people who did it, not the people who helped them, not the oversight that failed, not the governor. No, blame the feds. I mean, come on. That's like saying if someone steals my car, it's my fault for not catching them first. The Treasury literally said that they're in the middle of investigating whether some of the stolen money was funneled overseas. And these things can take a long time. It may take years. Financial crimes, shell companies, fake meal sites, overseas transfers. But Elon wants to jump ahead and say, well, there isn't any terrorism charges yet. Case closed.
I'm pretty confident at the moment because there are people who have been prosecuted and who have been sentenced.
But even she understands that that's not how investigations work. But that is how politicians dodge responsibility. She's basically telling her viewers, if no one got charged today, then the whole thing is just fake news. And that's extremely dangerous because it turns real fraud into political theater. You could blame Trump for political theater, but the idea that you'll do the same thing or even think that what you're doing is the right thing just shows how ridiculous this whole scenario is. Fraud happened, and it's gonna take a long time to uncover all of the money that's been stolen. Billions of dollars. Billions. That's a lot of money. So it's gonna take a long time to get all this under control. This is one of the biggest welfare frauds in US history. Fake kids, fake meals, fake receipts, millions, billions gone. And who got indicted? Dozens of Somalis. Her own community. People connected socially, politically, and even personally. And instead of saying this hurts our community, this is embarrassing, we have to do better. We have to separate ourselves from the people who are committing a crime and make sure those people are held accountable and face punishment. But instead of that, she goes with, it's Trump's fault, it's rhetoric, it's the FBI, it's misinformation. No, it's fraud, plain and simple. You don't fix a problem by trying to deflect and trying to blame others. Omar did say that she returned donations from people tied to the fraud. That looks like that did happen, but that's not telling the entire story. She returned the money after the FBI raids were public, not before, not proactively, not as a moral stand. It was damage control after the scandal broke. She didn't walk by the fire. She smelled the smoke, waited, and then ran outside when everyone else saw the flames. So yes, she cleaned it up, but don't act like it was some kind of noble gesture. It was self-preservation. All Somalis arrested had criminal backgrounds and removal orders, which is not true. Apparently, local attorneys say that some had no criminal record at all and was stuck in backlogged immigration cases. She basically took ICE's talking points when it helped her argument and then ignored ICE when it didn't. That's not consistency. That's narrative building. This is what an honest answer looks like. Listen, this fraud hurts our community. We have to acknowledge it, we have to condemn it, and we have to fix it. But no, she didn't say that. All she did was deny, deflect, blame the FBI, blame the rhetoric, treat the fraud like it's a political talking point, instead of saying the obvious truth. Yes, people in my community stole a lot of money, and it hurts. But we have to deal with that reality. But she won't say that because she is terrified of breaking ranks. And because regular people can just see the BS, when you watch the interview, it's like watching someone trying to juggle 5 excuses at once, talking about how this is misinformation, how the FBI messed up. I returned the money. Nothing is proving it. All these attacks are racist. This is political. Again, it's not political. This is fraud. And when your explanation has more twist than the fraud case, you're not helping. You're making things worse. The real issue isn't Ilhan Omar defending her community. The issue is refusing to admit the truth. A huge group of people exploited the system. They stole the taxpayer money. They embarrassed the state. They hurt families that actually needed the help. You can defend your people and admit wrongdoing, but she chose politics over honesty. And that's why the fraud will never stop in this situation, because oversight never improves and the community continues to get hurt again and again. But let me know what you guys think about this situation and the interview. Have you seen it? Let me know. Do you think she did well during the interview or she completely embarrassed herself? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for taking time to watch this video, and I'll see you guys in the next video.